Welcome to everyone. This is Canadian Yoga here, and we are live on YouTube because I'm bringing another discussion to you, which is just a bit of an educational um, topic, kind of delving into the social issues and sort of political uh, not political, but I'd say it's a bit of a that social political discussion about some concerning signs that I've noticed and I want to just bring to your attention for everybody out there. So here's something that kind of caught my attention. Apparently, it's been noticed in the news. Well, it's been noticed that around the United States, there have been certain events that have been occurring with the removal of Black history from certain historical markers, and some of those things have been occurring at home, but also occurring close to home, but also occurring around the United States. Um, So to kind of give you an example, as you can see here, I've included a lot of the links in the description box, so you guys can read up on it. And I'm gonna break this live stream into this discussion into two parts. So I don't want to stay for long because I have some things I have to get done um, today, but I want to come back later tonight and continue the discussion. So in the first half of this discussion, we're just going to talk about um, some of the things that have been going around in this area where I live in New York, and also we're going to talk a little bit about what are the things that have been going on um, with some of the American monuments being removed from public places, which is concerning. It's a concerning thought in my mind, in my estimation. And we can agree to disagree. Um, we can agree to disagree because I have the right to say things and you can disagree with it. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm perfectly fine with being open to discussion. So in this discussion, so in this article here, I'm talking about um, so there's a important memorial that was done for a particular soldier in the United States who fought for the United States in World War One. His name is Henry Johnson, and he gained basically he fought in World War One for the United States, um, and in the city of Albany, New York, here they have a building that had his mural on it. He was painted on it, and that mural was destroyed. And it was destroyed, and then there's been other things that have been happening around in the area. So, and there's been a push to remove Henry Johnson from the to kind of etch out his name and basically let's just get into the article here from news10.com. So it says building bearing Henry Johnson memorial demolished here. So according to the news10.com, of course this article was written January 31st, 2025. So that was last year. Um, on the corner of Henry Johnson Boulevard and Clinton Avenue in Albany was a mural of Boulevard's namesake Henry Johnson. It's all gone now, and the city of Albany says it's because the building had to be condemned. So 337 Clinton Avenue has been reduced to cinder blocks and bricks. It's like something out of a war zone. Ironic in that building was once housed the mural of a war hero. Sergeant Henry Johnson was part of the famed Harlem Hellfighters who single-handedly held off a German raid and saved a fellow soldier in World War One. He was posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor by President Obama in 2016. This mural was painted about 2 years later. So Sean McGuire, the executive director of Albany Land Bank, said, quote, I have been driving by that mural since it was installed. So he managed the abandoned property, says it was a joint county and city decision to tear down the building. So Sean McGuire said, quote unquote, so we went up with our engineer and took a look inside and saw the extent of the deterioration on the building. 337 Clinton was just one of many blighted buildings in Albany. This is a neighborhood where my great-grandfather had a home on Orange Street, so this area is something that I've known all my life, and it's really unfortunate that folks had labeled this as a place to not invest. But there will be life again on the land plot again. There's housing coming there in about 2,500 square feet, a first floor retail type, and use a number of different properties assembled in that area, McGuire revealed. But what about the mural? Like Sean McGuire said, quote unquote, it had always been our goal and intent to retain that mural at that corner as part of the redevelopment. So, um, but in this story here, so the mural dedicated to Henry Johnson was destroyed because the building had to be taken down. Now, just to look at another article here, according to the Trump administration, um, that in January 11th, 2025, Trump planned to remove Henry Johnson's name from the Army base um, in Albany. So, Albany Mayor Kathy Sheehan is blasting the Trump administration plan to remove hometown hero Henry Johnson's name from a U.S. Army base, calling it an affront to the community. The administration is changing the name of the U.S. Army base in Leesville, Louisiana, back to Fort Polk, which is named after a Confederate general. Henry Johnson received the Medal of Honor for nearly losing his life fighting off a raid of German soldiers to save the lives of fellow Americans. Uh, and Albany Mayor Kathy Sheehan wrote, quote unquote, the Republicans in Washington seem intent on rewriting history by erasing the contributions made to our great nation by people of color like Henry Johnson, she said in a statement. They are making it clear that when they say Make America Great Again, their real goal is to turn back the clock again and undo decades of progress for, fought through the blood, sweat, and tears of the civil rights movement. Honoring a war hero is not woke. It's right. Kathy, Mayor Kathy Sheehan is calling on the Department of Defense to reverse the decision. So that was last year. Pretty sure that that administration had already went ahead with this plan to keep that name as under, Fort Polk and not under the Fort Johnson. But I don't know. I have to double check on this. I apologize if I didn't double check, but I, don't know. Um, I, I just want to kind of continue with the research. The basic idea of what I'm trying to understand, what I want you guys to understand is why is it that um, why is it that these things are occurring and what's the reason behind it? Um, because in this article from March 25th, 2025, Capital Region lawmakers and local veterans resist Trump administration attempt to erase Sergeant Henry Johnson's story. So the federal government moves article on renaming Fort Polk to Fort Johnson. Um, this is from New York Senate.gov. On the National Medal Day of Honor, New York State Patricia Fay, Assembly Makers Gabrielle Romero and John T. McDonald III, Albany Mayor Kathy Sheehan, President of Albany District, the 369th Veterans Association, Ronald Wilson, Commander Jack Jones of North Albany's American Legion, and post and local veterans denounced the Department of Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and Trump administration removal of an article renaming Fort Polk to Fort Johnson under an executive order. Sergeant Henry Johnson is a Medal of Honor recipient and has too received France's highest military honor. The base was originally named for Leonidas Polk, a Confederate general, and was named in 2023 as part of a bipartisan initiative to rename bases that honored Confederate generals and the Confederate war effort. Sergeant Henry Johnson, an infantryman from Albany, first enlisted in 1917 with the segregated all-black 15th New York um, National Guard Regiment, ultimately becoming the 369th U.S. Infantry Regiment, aka the Harlem Hellfighters. While on duty in Argonne Forest in May 1918, Sergeant Johnson and a fellow soldier came under attack by a German raiding party of at least a dozen men. Despite being outnumbered, Johnson fought until his rifle ran out of ammunition, then using a club before resorting to a polo knife in hand-to-hand combat. During the encounter, Johnson suffered 21 wounds but managed to prevent his wounded comrades from being captured. For decades, efforts by historians, black veterans, and New York State lawmakers sought to ensure that Johnson's extraordinary bravery was properly acknowledged. Recognition, long denied due to racial discrimination, it wasn't until 1996 that he was posthumously awarded the Purple Heart for the severe injuries he sustained in combat. In 2002, he received the Distinguished Service Cross, and in 2015, after nearly a century of advocacy, Johnson was finally awarded with the Medal of Honor, the nation's highest military award. Two other bases also had their 2023 renaming recently reversed under a policy requiring federal agencies to review materials and information to erase diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. While no official renaming of Fort Johnson has been proposed or reported, those present were united in their calls for the base to retain its name, honoring Sergeant Henry Johnson. So I'm just going to kind of skip ahead a little bit, just kind of go over what some of these people have said. So Senator Patricia Fay said, the renaming of Fort Johnson wasn't just about changing a name, it was about rightfully honoring Sergeant Johnson, a hero among heroes who gave everything for his country. Albany Mayor Kathy Sheehan said Henry Johnson died a broken man because our military failed him. They stripped him of his uniform and denied him his position because he spoke truth to power. Um, Continuing, Assemblymaker John T. McDonald III said the decision to remove Sergeant Johnson's page from the U.S. Army website is an insult to every American who has fought for this country. Sergeant Johnson was not only our local hero and a national hero as well, serving our country with distinction and honor during World War I. Um, he never received the recognition that he deserved during his lifetime, but was posthumously awarded the Purple Heart and the Medal of Honor. Um, I'm just going to kind of stop right there. Now, everybody can read what each of these individuals have said regarding Sergeant Henry Johnson. I remember reading about Sergeant Henry Johnson, and I remember when I was back when I was younger. I remember learning about him back in the day, and I never exactly knew to the full extent of what kind of sacrifice he did. So, yes, I'm coming. I apologize for that. Um, had to had to take care of something. So there's a lot that that he really accomplished a big thing in World War One, holding off that assault by the Germans in order to 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 save some of his comrades' lives. He did a lot. Um, so there's a lot that there is to be said here about Henry Johnson, and a lot of uh, a lot of let's just say in the past, um, in Black history, a lot of Black Americans. A lot of Americans who are black, have to fight for their rights. They have to fight for everything that they are in order to prove themselves, in order to prove to the world that they are a successful, um, that they are human. That they have feelings of the people. And I just say that in this world, we would not have this world that we have today without the efforts of those who sacrifice so much, to make the future a better place as it is today. And because of the efforts of those of the past, there's just so much that left that we can continue carrying the torch forward in order to continue making a better future for the next generation. So, it is a shame that these things have happened. Um, Now I'm gonna stop here for today. I'm gonna stop here and talking about Sergeant Henry Johnson. I just want to kind of go over some of the things that what was said about him and give a brief overview of who Sergeant Henry Johnson was. And so I want to continue where I picked off, where I pick up here. I'm gonna pick up here later on tonight. So I'll see you guys in the later tonight in the next in the next live stream. So this is part one for our live stream today. I'll be on later tonight, and we can talk about part two. Um, I just wanted to bring this to your attention, so feel free. I've included all the links to the articles on this topic, and I want you guys to just read up on it for yourselves. So feel free to do that. I'll see you in the next live stream later tonight. Thank you for listening.